All right, good morning YouTube. It's Nick with NK Landscaping again as usual. Today we got something. I'd like to think we're a little early in trying to get this done, but in reality, winter creeps up on you so fast, even if you get an early head start. And what we're going to be working on today, this is our plow storage slash salt storage ugly tent thing that I got going on. And in the past, what we do is we buy salt by the bag. So it comes in these big bags. Well, the supplier that sells these bags isn't doing it this way anymore. I get it, it's a lot of work. It's not worth it. And most people don't buy salt in this form. This plow is going to be sold hopefully before the winter. We don't have a use for it. We've graduated from a straight blade to a V plow. So, of course, we'll have a little bit extra room, and then those tracks will eventually get mounted to the KX when those decide they don't want to be tracks anymore. But those are not really supposed to be in here. And then in the winter, the plow kind of either stays on the truck or goes down in my driveway, because that is our plow truck. What we need to work on, this tent is going to get taken apart and moved, and we are going to build a Unilock patio right here so that we can put salt in bulk on the ground. We're going to line it with railroad ties on the side, and then this tent will sit back on top of those railroad ties. It's a little bit of a construction. We're just using materials we have on hand. We have a bunch of Unilock. So instead of pouring a concrete base, you got to keep in mind this is my house, and at some point this company and this stuff is going to a commercial space when we can afford it. I want this to be removable because my future end goal is for where all this stuff is. I want to put up a steel building for my stuff. Once the company stuff's gone, of course. But anyway, what we need to do is get this thing taken apart. So we've now got everything removed from the tent, and the tent is moved over. All the salt bags are moved out of the way. These two ripped, so they're staying right where they ripped. I now need to scratch out all this item 4. So we put item 4 in this like parking area last winter, just so we had an area to put up this tent and the other tent and a little trailer parking spot. This is good stone, no need to waste it, so I'm going to dig it out of here and we'll just pull it back onto the driveway area, and once we build this patio we'll use that as extra fill and driveway material. So I just got to move those logs and get this all graded out. Kurt's got the laser level. This is going to get installed. It doesn't show up on camera, but this actually goes up a hill, so we're just going to follow the existing slope here. No need to make it flat for any reason. So I've got my rough excavation going here. I'm stripping all this item 4. It's all good. We're going to use it in the driveway. I got to dig back just a little more. We're shooting for a 22 by 12 foot base. That is 20 by 10, and we're going to have railroad ties on each side. So that's 21 plus a little bit of an overdig. I'm going to pull all this kind of scrap material back. It'll go in this dirt pile for now. It'll either get spread out or whatever. My end goal is you see my pile of firewood logs there. That tree is going to eventually come down. It's not too healthy, and the whole goal is eventually when I do put my building up here, you know, long-term dreams, you can see we're basically level with the driveway there, and this trail over to kind of where my boat is parked is level. There's just this hump in the middle, so I want to clear this all out and flatten this. So when this is done, I'm going to kind of go through here and grade this out, and it'll be a more level area. Everything is dug to grade. Now it's time for some compaction. It is very dry and I don't have great water source up here, so we're going to do what we can. All right, good morning guys. We are on day 2 of this little project here. This is where we got to yesterday. The gravel that you see is almost a grade. We're 1 to 2 inches low, and we didn't hit the back yet. So what happened here, we wanted 6 tons at the quarry. They gave us 5. And then I ended up over digging a couple sections because there were a lot of tree roots and stuff in here that kept coming out. You could see this more brown dirt. That was one of the sections in here, and it was kind of nasty, so we wanted to make sure we got that dug out just so that this will support the weight of snow plows and trucks pulling in and out and all that. But you can see the size of it. It's pretty big. You can see right off the front of the bucket, and then it comes back to right about here. So that'll be, you can almost park a machine in there comfortably with attachments. So I'm gonna go get some more gravel this morning, and then probably get to laying some pavers today. So excavator's fueled up, and we got a new load of gravel. Let's get this thing filled up, then we can compact. We got a little bit of 1/4 inch over there, so we shouldn't have to go out to get the initial batch. We probably are gonna need a little extra, but we gotta go get extra pavers and stuff from the yard. So kind of gonna be all over today, but let's get this gravel in here and get this all to grade. So our 3/4 is to grade and compacted. Now I'm gonna come over here. We have this leftover pile, a 1/4 inch. This is just all the leftovers from all the different jobs. It's a bit contaminated. It has river rock and some other junk in it. So that's gonna be a bit of a pain. We're gonna have to pick that out as we spread it, but it's free and it's gotta get used. So I'm gonna load it in the trailer and then I'll bring it over there. But there it is. So let's load it up. So this is the 1/4 inch we got to work with, and it doesn't look very good. And I don't want to pick all that out by hand, so we made this. If you've never used one of these, this is just a wood screen. This house, before the Rotostar and before all the excavator and before I owned this house, I moved a lot of dirt through one of these screens with my uncle. That's how we used to make topsoil back here. They needed stuff for around the house, and well, you screen it over a wheelbarrow. We made this to fit over the mule and or sawhorses. So we're going to screen through some of that, see how well it works. This should be perfectly sized for the 1/4 inch to fall through, but not anything else. And we should be left with a nice clean 1/4 inch in the mule that we can then put on top of our screed rod. So let's find out if that actually works. Yeah, it works. It's better than doing it by hand. Now we have a bed full of good 1/4 inch that we can put on top of our screed rails. So this is working out extremely well. That was a good move. It cost like nothing to make. We already had the lumber and staples. We just needed to buy the mesh. We have more than half of that roughly to grade. The back half of the screed rods are perfectly level. Kurt's working on the front now. That was only 3 loads in the mule, not bad. We still got quite a bit in the trailer. Probably make like 2 more loads in the mule. If you haven't watched my video about the rebuild of this thing, I did the head gasket and all that over the winter, go check that out. The link will be down below. But this thing has been, you know, at first when I bought this, I was a little weary about paying so much money, $5,000 for this. It's been great. I would do it all again. These machines are perfect. So let's continue on with leveling this out, and before you know, we will be setting some blocks. So we're about ready to lay some pavers. This base is all nice and screeded out. Kurt, what kind of pavers are these?
It's a Beacon Hill made by Unilock.
What color?
Fossil.
Yeah, these are just some leftover. These are the smooth Beacon Hill fossil color, you said?
Yeah.
So we have 11 rows of this.
No, this plus 11.
Oh, this plus 11. Cool. So it's almost enough to do this. We might have to get creative towards the end, but that's what happens when you're using leftover scrap. So let's get laying. So check it out. Not too bad. There's no pattern here. That pallet was a used pallet that we had. There were so many of these big stones that there was no pattern to follow. Kurt just threw these down in random, and it honestly looks really good. It brought us to within 28 inches of our finished goal. You see that one's cracked. It's fine. It's a salt pad. But now comes the fun part. What are these, Kurt?
These are Brussels blocks. These are meant for small ornamental walls and fire pits. So we have a whole pallet of them from a job that got canceled one time. And
this was a while ago. We've had these for years.
So we've been sitting on them, and we're going to use them.
Now tell the good people the problem with using these as a paver.
Well, you can use them as a paver. They're actually be a pretty nice paver. They'd have that antique, look, because they're tumbled pavers, so they have these natural breaks in them. But they're a little bit thicker than the other pavers. So since our base is already graded evenly, we're going to have to take them, put them down, and we're going to have to beat that down with the hammer until it looks good.
Yep.
So
it's about 3/8 inch difference. So as long as we get this first transitional row sloped a little bit, we should be able to match the rest of them, no problem. We only have to go this 28 inches, and this is in the back, so let's make this happen. Well, that's a wrap on the paver build. They look nice. They would, this is like your Westchester driveway entrance type brick, and we were able to pound them in. We only need to make 3 cuts. Otherwise, we spaced them all out a little bit so they take poly sand because they don't have the nubs that space them like a normal paver. Tomorrow is going to be railroad ties. So the way we're going to do this is 3 sides will be encapsulated with railroad ties. It's going to start at a 2-foot height at 10 feet. It's going to ramp up, and it's going to ramp up for a total of a 4-foot wall in the back. So that's so we can scoop against the salt when it's in here. And then the tent is going to get placed on top of those railroad ties and fixed into place on those so it can't blow away. We're going to have to trim some of the legs, but that'll all happen tomorrow. But for now, that's not too bad. It looks like a bomb went off, but once this is all cleaned up, it'll look much better. Oh boy, look at that. We got a big load of 36 6x6 railroad ties. Bottoms are 10-footers, tops are 12-footers. 12s are going to go in the back, 10s are going to go along the sides. So we're going to get those unloaded and get set up to start installing these around the side. Again, we're doing this in the most budget-oriented way as possible. Normally, guys use mafia blocks on the side of their salt bins. They also don't use pavers, but we're using what we got, and that lumber is pretty cheap. So we used to do a lot of railroad ties, so this is going to go quick. We're going to get everything set up and get moving. we're getting somewhere now. Things are taking shape. So this front wall up to the 10-foot mark, which is right here, that's getting one more course. This all still needs to be pinned, of course, but that's getting one course. That we're going to step up 2 more courses for 3 feet, and then about at this 5-foot spot, we're going to step up 2 more courses for 4 feet in the back. So it's going to be pretty tall in the back to hold when you push against this to scoop the sand, the salt. But yeah, you see Kurt's got his tool belt on. He inspired me to get my own little tool belt. He got that when he was doing the roof on his house, and he said how valuable it was. And I'll tell you what, I agree. It's really nice having all your tools on you. But back to work we go. The main construction of the wall is built. Looks pretty good. We stepped it up a little bit more nicely than we originally planned to because it looked a little weird. So we're going to work on some poly sand and perma edge, and then we'll get this thing compacted and it'll be done for tonight. Tomorrow we can focus on getting the tent up on there and any last little finishing touches. All right, good morning everybody. It's been 2 days now. So we skipped yesterday because it rained finally. We haven't had rain in quite a long time and everything was so dry here. So it's good that this is finally cut down on the dust. Today what we got to focus on is the tent. So because this tent is going to sit on top of the railroad ties as we step up, the legs need to get cut shorter. So these front legs will be full length. These we're taking 6-inch off. Those we're taking 18-inch off, and the back we're taking 24-inch off so that it sits flat and level. So we're going to cut those, and then hopefully we'll be able to pick this thing up safely with the excavator like it is now and set it in place without too much trouble, and then we'll have to figure out how to actually hold this thing down on top of our railroad tie base. So let's get to cutting here in a second and then setting this thing. I want to do my best to be as straight onto this thing as possible. And I want to get it in the middle if I can, so it's not going all over the place. So that should be right about here. All right, hold down your end. You're gonna steer. All right, coming on forward. So the wall is actually a little bit wider than the tent. The tent is 10 feet wide, and that's how wide our patio is. So if we're shooting for the center of these railroad ties, we're actually gonna be 1 foot wide, actually 6 inches wider. So I'm gonna come up a little bit, tilt it down just a little bit. Now we're coming in. What I think we might do is put rebar in for the tent to sit down on top of. So I think that's what we're going to do now. We're going to drill some rebar in, and then we'll use that to slot the tent right down on top of. Look at that. So the whole tent got not a full 2 feet taller, but 20 inches taller or so because of the sink down from the railroad ties in the ground. but that's nice. So that gives me some room, because the most of the time we're going to be dumping in here with the dump trailer, so we need some room to dump. And then as far as loading the salter, we have a small salter, so I couldn't really load it with the skid steer, so I'm probably going to end up having to come in here with the excavator, scoop, and dump into the salter. So I need that extra height. But what we need to do now is figure out a way to get this thing fixed, or else one gust of wind and this is going to be my neighbor's tent. And you could see the tent's kind of bent, so like that's on the ground, but that's not. So we're either going to do some ratchet system or some bolt system we're going to figure out here in a minute. So aside from a little spillage from a bag that lost both of its straps, or all 4 of its straps, that's the only salt we lost. There it is. So some of this salt is probably, what, 3 years old? Yeah, 3 years old. That's why it kind of looks kind of junky. We do use magic salt. For those of you that don't live in snowy areas or know what that is, it's basically a treated salt. They treat it with some sort of, I think it's something from distilling.
I'm not sure, but it's supposed to be natural and organic.
Yeah, from what I've read, it's something from the like distilling of alcohol. It's like a waste byproduct of distilling alcohol. I don't know if it only comes from distillation or if it comes from beer production as well, because with hops and all the different things in beer. But anyway, when we get it fresh, it kind of smells like a hoppy, kind of barley type of deal.
It's got a funky smell.
It smells kind of weird, but it works in lower temperatures than just standard rock salt. But anyway, that's probably a 2-yard pile of salt, which is worth a pretty good amount of money. So we're going to top this off later in the season before plowing, and then I'll end up pushing this all to the back, and we'll store the plows in here and the shovels and everything. But final touches, we put some angle brackets here, so that's held in place. It's not going anywhere. We ordered some ratchet straps, so we're going to do a diagonal in the back to keep that from swaying, and then 2 in the front here. And then we have to tension this tarp, and we're going to end up buying a long tarp that goes from the wall up and over and kind of makes this like a, you know, the ends will be open, but the sides will be closed in to keep the weather off of this. But until that stuff comes in, we're going to do some grading work and get this big mess cleaned up. All right, guys, do you want to see the 90% finished product? You know, with every project, especially ones that you do for yourself, you never get that 100. The last 100% or the last 10% takes most of the time. So, well, there it is. The only thing that's left to do is a new tarp, or at least to stretch this tarp out, and then we're going to throw another tarp just so we have some side coverage. Otherwise, we got some ratchet straps. They're pulling down all 4 corners with some eye bolts right into the wall, so that's not going anywhere unless we get a Hurricane Helene or Helen or whatever they're calling it. I don't think that's coming up here, but anyway, these 2 plows fit in here nicely with our shovels and our salt. This plow is for sale, so hopefully that goes soon, because we have the V plow and we have no need for a second one. Not running 2 crews anymore, and kind of graduated away from the straight blades. But other than that, I got everything graded out except for that pile. I'm going to be putting a fire pit in, so I need some of that. But you can see I dug out a lot of this. Now, this is a big hump. Eventually this tree will come down, but this hump will be evened out, and kind of from where the pallet forks are, that's the same grade as the back corner here. That'll swing around. It'll step up a little bit at some point, but check this thing out. I pulled this out. This thing's huge. Give it scale compared, it's a 19-foot boat. It's pretty big, huh? So I'll have to find a spot for that, and then we have some of these stones that we're going to put on a pallet of flagstone for sale or to go to a job. So get some gravel eventually to put in here, and then the end goal is where the trailers are. All 3 of those trailers, I want to back them in here, kind of where the boat is, and get them out of sight of my house, because I'm kind of tired of looking at them. So that's a project for another day, but I think this turned out really nicely. We're really happy, and hopefully we get some snow and get to do some salting and plowing this year, or else why did we build that? But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any comments or suggestions or anything, drop them down below, and while you're at it, give Kurt a check out over NK Garage. He's got videos every week just like I do, sometimes even more often than I do. So check him out. He's always got some cool stuff. Awesome, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next one, and hope you check back in.